So welcome everybody. We'll get started. I'm Trip Anderson, Executive Director here at AVA Gallery and Art Center for just over 2 years now. We're thrilled to have you here, and we're thrilled to have Luciana and Cindy to share their artwork with us. We're looking forward to their talks. Just a couple logistics for tonight, since we do have a double header. We will hear from Luciana first, and then take a very short break, 2 or 3 minutes, just to do a little bit of rearranging. Help yourself to another glass of wine or whatever, and then we'll start in the second half with Cindy. So without further ado, I am going to introduce you to Mila Pinnigan, our exhibition manager, who arranges and sets all of this stuff, and she will introduce Luciana. So thank you all for coming. Mila.
Hi everybody. It's so nice to see the space so full again after a great opening. So Luciana studied at the School of Visual Arts in New York for 3 years, where she focused on fine art and then moved into photography, which really took her heart. I recently learned that she moved to the Upper Valley about 30 years ago, and that's when she first became involved with AVA. And so what's so exciting about having her show here right now is that this is a welcome home for Luciana, and you know, there's some people who, when they walk into a room, they just light it up. And she does that not just in her personality, but also with her artwork. Each piece is a treasure, and I just had such a great time working with her on this show. So without any further ado, Luciana Frigerio.
Thank you. I'm going to have to log us back into the computer. So thank you. I just want to start by saying thank you to AVA Gallery for providing such a beautiful space. It's so great to show here after all these years, and it looks fabulous. It's been a pleasure working with you guys too, so thank you. I'm going to talk tonight about my work, and I just thought I'd give you like an overreaching swath of the work that I've done from when I started doing photography on to what I'm doing now. So I'm just going to start with a few things. This is like one of the first pictures I ever took. I started in photography, well, I started in fine arts at SVA, and then I had to take a basic photography class. And just starting off from there, you can go, and doing these images made me feel like, okay, this is something I want to pursue. So I basically I switched my major and became a black and white photographer and started to explore all kinds of things. And I first started working with what was available around me. And then, and then I started, working with a model, doing nudes. I would do different bodies of work, pretty much. So I had a lot of still lifes. You can continue. I do a lot of working with models, working indoors and outdoors. To me, I was trying to work with mostly like the light and what was available to me, and taking what I could find and working with that. When I would travel, I would, go and visit places, take pictures, so that I could have like a little piece of it there for myself. My dad is from Italy. My family figures very deeply in the work that I do. So I would travel a lot to Italy and take pictures. I went for Carnival one year and just walked around, and like I say, just taking things from what I saw. This is basically, Carnival in Italy is just a feast for the eyes, so you can just take things wherever you want. What I decided to do when I was there was just like to make the pictures. I wanted to take pictures of all the beauty, and I thought, why not put a little something of myself in there? I was always photographing eggs when I was doing my black and white photography, so I just thought, oh, I'll just do eggs in Venice. And so they were like my little self-portraits of what I was doing where I was. So I did like this, I did that, and I like felt like I was the egg, in the work of my thing. So So that continued onward. Again, in that point, it was more like I was taking the world and making things from what was already there. And then I came back and I decided to make my own little worlds, because it was more interesting to me to like set up a setting and create something that was meaningful to me and that I could also control, because I was always looking for the light or looking for this or that. So I started working with little train figures, and you can switch, and just working with little sets and making little worlds, and just having like a visual language with a lot of the objects that were very familiar to me. So, you know, I would just put them on my beautiful typewriter that I got in Bronxville. I was just saying how I used to go to this really great thrift store in Bronxville, and I got this beautiful typewriter there. And I carry this crap around with me wherever I go, so it's like, so keep going. And this, like a dear friend of mine had died, and so I took the Kleenex from the funeral. He made a lot of cloud art, and so I made like sort of my farewell to him from that body of work with the Kleenex. I pressed it between glass and made that little series. So I was doing a lot of photography, and then I came up to Vermont and continued on. You can switch. And basically what I did was I started working in my studio, and I did this body of work that was, well, it was really meaningful to me. I mean, it started off with my cat kept killing all these birds. And so I was like, oh my God, I gotta like do something with these dead birds that were constantly being brought into my house. So I started doing these still lifes. And basically, like for this body of work, I fell in love with the Dutch master still lifes, and I thought, I want to make that for myself. So I would take sheets of dirty glass, and I would shoot light through it, and I would shoot my camera through it, just to give it that old world feeling. When I was in school, I had a teacher, and he really pounded it into me of like, every picture is made with intention, and you have to like, frame your pictures and have everything just be exactly how you want it. So I would try to make my prints straight prints, so I was very much into making whatever kind of technique I was using that in the, you know, when I photographed the picture, so that I could just make a straight print and have everything be like that. So as I continued to do this body of work, people would bring me like bird wings or somebody brought me the bird head, and I just started making like my version of like just the still lifes that I love so much. The other thing that I feel like, and you're going to see, like, it's funny when I put together this grouping of slides, I was looking at all the symbolism that I use in my work, and you're going to see like books, birds, clock parts, and eggs, because a lot of what I do is, my dad used to fix clocks, and so I always had clock parts lying around. And I don't know where the birds came from, but I always loved birds. Anyway, you can keep going. And ships and oceans too, that's another thing that I love. So here we got like the ship, the ocean, the book, anyway. It's basically, I had my own little visual language, and I just holed away in my studio and made this body of work. I kept going with it and exhibited it here actually many years ago. And like that bird I found in my chimney, it had just died in that position. It got stuck, it was a swallow. It was really beautiful. So I just used it in a million photographs. I used it in the next photograph too, you'll see. So I was working in photography, had this tremendous outpouring of work. And the other thing, like with a lot of these, like I made my own little story. So this is my version of the Annunciation with like the angel coming to the Virgin Mary, who's like the egg and all that stuff. So of course, when that happens, I got pregnant. So I went from photography to my son. And I gave up photography, and then I had my daughter. And so I took a little break from creating and raised my kids. And at that point in my life, I had a few upheavals that I won't go into here. And so it took a while, and I got a little more settled in a new chapter of my life. And I started working in paper. And you know, I'd sort of given up all the chemicals and everything in photography, and I sort of was done. I felt like I'd sort of like using a camera wasn't enough for me anymore. I wanted to work with just basic things and make my own little worlds. I got obsessed with paper theaters, and so I started, these are all made from like layering cardstock. I just cut everything. They're about 4 inches by 6 inches. They're small. And I just make these little worlds. So I would just like make my version of Paris, like, and they're just, you know, cut like that. Or I would, like, well, here's an example of a whole bunch of them that I do. They're just like sitting in a windowsill, but they're all basically just cut paper. And it just is, to me, like to take just something simple, like a white sheet of paper, and give it depth and give it light. And just, it's so simple, but they just, and make my poignant little stories, my little worlds, you know, because that's really what it's all about for me. I took it to like another level. So you can see like, I made myself a little theater and made like this whole like stage set. And I collaborated with my friend Sarah. And we ended up, she lives in Scotland, and I flew to Scotland. And she never made a stop motion film, and I thought, let's make something, because I used to make stop motion films too for a while. And so we made this stupid little stop motion film, and I came back and I edited it. I showed it to my friend, who showed it to a friend at Disney, and it ended up, Disney contacted me, and I pitched an idea to them, and they hired me to do like a 2-minute series of 10 2-minute interstitials for their programming. And it was like the job from hell, and it was all based on this kind of stuff. And they kept, you know, I was always like, oh, you know, make it beautiful, simple. And they just kept like, you know, Disneyfying it and killing all the creativity. And it was like a horrible job, but I did it. We pushed through. It's nothing I'm proud of. And so I came home and I had to wash my mouth out of all that Disney politically correct. So I did this whole series that you'll see next of murder scenes, and like, I was just like, I gotta like get this out of my system. So I like did like the, you know, killing, and here's another like drive-by shooting. Like it was just like I was sick of the PC. And so then I did like the, you know, shooting off the cliff. Anyway, that helped me feel a little better. And it actually like bought me a year, like the Disney job bought me a year to figure out like, what am I gonna do next? Like I wanted to make a living creatively. And so I started playing around. Let's see what the next is. And I started folding the pages of books to be words. Not like, it was just something I had seen a long time ago, and I was like, I can figure this out. So I figured it out, and I started a whole business online. So basically, there's a picture of me just folding the pages, and that turns into, if you look, like I can do people's names, I do, you know, address, people's like wedding anniversary dates or all kinds of things. I have like a whole line of business that you can see, like that's for someone's paper anniversary gift. And so I just basically, I do different fonts, I do everything, and this is my bread and butter. And it's allowed me for the past, I've been doing this for about 8 years now, and it's allowed me to have incredible freedom. I mean, I work my butt off, and I sell on Amazon, and I sell on Etsy, and I have my own website where I sell. And then I get all kinds of other commissions that I've done for bigger pieces. It's been an incredible ride, and it's been great, and it's allowed me to like put my kids through college and all that kind of stuff. So it's been fantastic. So I do all kinds of words. I guess you can just see, this is like an example of just some of the things that I did within like a week. You know, I just was like, oh, here are all the different things. So people contact me, and I do custom-made books for them all over the place. So then the next, yeah, and I do like sentences, I do whatever. So basically, like, I've been doing this for a while. I was working really hard, and now things have started to slow down a little bit, because now a lot of people have started doing it. I have a lot of competition, which is fine, because I'm sort of tired. And I've turned a lot of pages, and I have a ton of books. I mean, my basement is like full of books. So I was like, what am I gonna do? I want to play with some books some more. So what I started doing was I would take books, and you can see I would start cutting away. Like I was like, you know, when I'm folding the pages, I just look at the pages and things pop out at me. And so I started just like pulling things aside or ripping pages out and then cutting away just whenever I'd see like a little phrase or something. And I found this fantastic little book, and so I started cutting away at the book. And all these pieces are from one book. And after I cut it away, I thought, oh, let me put an image behind it and take it to another level. So I start doing these combinations. And they're like my little visual poetry image. I mean, again, I'm like telling a story. And it's really about telling stories for me. And taking what I love is taking a found object and going for the hunt and trying to find something within it and then turn it around and make it into something else. Like this book that I chose to use is a book of like children's morality tales. It's like nothing erotic or anything, but when I would look at the pages, all these things would come out, and it was like some were really disturbing or some were like mournful or whatever. But it's just, you know, you would never see it reading it, I guess, unless you just happen to look that way. And some are playful, because, you know, it's just funny to have that lying there right on the horizon. I like to play around. I guess I'm having a lot of fun just looking at things and twisting them in a different way. And just making a whole other story, taking one story. I guess that's what I do when I fold the books, is I take one story and I turn it into another story. And I guess I'm doing it here too. For me, it's like I don't know, I think about it more and more, that I like the hunt of trying to find something within something else and make something work. So another thing I did was when I live in Norwich, and we have the Norwich book shed, so I always go there and grab books. And I think so one day I was at the Norwich set and there were some comic books. So I was like, okay. So I like started cutting away at the comic books and doing that kind of thing. And I love the idea of mashing up like two totally different things, or two totally different worlds, like the world of the comic world and then the world of the fine art. And just making that, you know, dialogue between the two. So I've been making a whole bunch of those too, and they're a lot of fun too. Because I love like the you know, you could take it and just switch it around, make it something else, like, you know. It was like finding the Last Supper. It was like I had to find it that size, and that's what it is. It's like they're little comics, and I've got to find the picture that fits the right size. It makes it all work. So I make a whole bunch of those kinds of things. Yeah. Yeah, and just the beautiful juxtapositions that happen, which I love. And you can. I have like a whole new appreciation for comics now. I just love the way they are. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah. So I'm all into the mashup right now. And so I was telling you before how like when I travel, I like to sort of instead of like taking pictures, I put the eggs in. And now what I do is when I travel, I like to I usually bring a fine art book with me and a book to collage in. And I just love to collage with whatever surroundings, the things that I can grab from my surroundings. So it could be like a card from the hotel I'm staying at, or the magazines or stuff that I find on the street. And so a while back, I would be going to Las Vegas a lot because I was playing poker and I love it. So I did a whole series where you know, when you're walking on the street, they give you little cards to find, you know, for the ladies on the street, or ladies of the evening. So I love like juxtaposing. This is from a series I did called Pious Porn, where it's like the, you know, holy men and then the, you know, the hussies. So like those to me were like a whole other, it just that, again, so I would go, I'd get those cards off the street, I'd come back to my hotel, I'd cut them up and make these were done on coasters of the hotel that I was staying at. And just like, you know, mix them up, because it's so much fun. And then, so the other thing, one time I was at the Norwich dump, and someone had left a whole like 20 Harlequin romances. So I was like, oh, I'll pick these up and start cutting them up. And I started reading them, and they are like racy. So I was like, I'm cutting all the racy parts out. So that's like all those test tubes are filled with the racy parts. So I was doing a lot of work where I'd take like the racy things and put them through my art. So like I did this. The other thing I was doing is I was interested in I was calling these my Renaissance X-rays, where it's like, what I'm interested in sort of like what lies beneath. So it's like you have this like prim and proper upstanding citizen, but underneath is like this whole eroticism. So I was doing a whole series. I just thought I'd throw a couple of those in because it sort of has all of that too. Again, this is like the Harlequin romance underneath. So I was doing a series like peeling away at like the regular old like scenery, and then finding what was the whole erotic side underneath. So I love this one in particular because I love how the waves just work with her beautiful, sheeting. Anyway, so I started doing a bunch of stuff like that. And then I also got into like, because I cut away all those slices, so there'd be words lying around. So I started using the words that the pieces that I cut away and making stuff with that too. So I started collaging with that. And I started really, at that point, getting more heavily into collage. And so I was moving at that point, this is like a year and a half ago, I was moving my parents to Colorado, and my dad used to fix clocks as a hobby. So I grew up with tons of clocks in the house, and I would sit with him while he would be making little brass wheels or, varnishing the case, and I was always around clock tools. So they really informed a lot of what I do, I think, just that flavor of that. So my dad had this beautiful, this metal framing, which was a bezel for basically it's where the face of a mantle clock lives, so you would have the dial with the numbers 12, 1 through 12. And it was just a piece, and I was like, oh, Dad, can I have this? And he was like, yeah, sure. So I took it, and I made this collage. This is like sort of bridging the collage and then the map pins and the wording. And that sort of took off, like doing these bezels. So and it's also like, they're beautiful. Like, they're just these beautiful things. And I'm sort of lazy about framing, so it's like perfect for me. So I could just like buy them up, and it's like a ready-made frame. So I started doing all these. Again, this is like the peeling away, where she gets peeled away and you see all the other stuff, the desire and everything. So yeah, and again, here's more the peeling away. So I started making, I feel like they're these little capsules of stories. And so that's what I'm interested in. Again, it's like the theatrical of making the little worlds. And to have them in these beautiful little frames, it's just such a lovely thing for me, at least. I get off on them. I mean, I'm making them for me. And I also did like a whole little series of, I go for walks with my friend, and at night they're beautiful. In the summer, there are fireflies in this field. It's like unbelievable. So I came home one of the nights last summer, and I just started doing this whole firefly series. And if you look closely, I found a book that has the name Luciana as a character, so I would made all these, like all the fireflies are the Luciana books. Again, it's like I could print a pager with my name on it, but I'm more into the hunt, I gotta look for the book with my name in it and make it work. So, I mean, they're all like self-portraits in a way. Anyway, yeah, and like this too, like putting the music coming through her without, and just the little details. Like I like to cut I fall in love with these women, so I like make this little world for them, and I cut them out and I put them in a setting, and doing that type of thing. So I know, right? Yeah, I put the hand, I love the hand reaching out. And that's the thing I'm trying to do too, like if I can, like have the hand sort of, just taking it out to that flat level. That's the beauty too. Like now lately I'm just calling myself like a 3D collage artist, because I like having that depth. And this is all along in the whole 3D collage thing. I had some friends, lovely friends, where are you guys? Giovanna and Jim, who gave me these beautiful clock parts, the clocks that they had gotten. And so again, it's like speaks the language of my father. So I'm hollowing them out and making little worlds. And again, like having that depth and having that sort of capsule little world is what's really interesting to me. I took some pictures, like, so for the one that's there on one of the ones in the exhibit, I just was showing, I thought, oh, I'll show you what was going on. When I was doing it, I took pictures where I like isolated the woman. I was like, oh, I love her. And then I thought she works so well with the birds. And so I just cut out a whole bunch of birds. And then you can see where I cut up above. And then And this is like the clock disassembled, so I thought, oh, let me lay them out this way. And I was going to put the word wondering because it just seemed like that should, but then it just felt like better without it. So then it turned into that. So you can see like just these little moments coming together. Yeah. Again, birds, you know, like, and then, oh yeah, and then these are made with ship clocks. I'd gotten one from my dad again, and it's got such depth, and they're super heavy. They're like solid brass. And so, so I just went on eBay and got a few more. And it just, again, I just fall in love with these characters, and I wanted to make these little worlds for them. And, you know, I love the idea of having the ocean in a ship clock, you know, just that beautiful juxtaposition of the world of the ocean in these little ship clocks. What else we got here? Okay, my studio. There's the last picture. Yeah, this is where I make all this stuff. You can see like I have a little disassembled clock here. There's a bezel there. There's some of the bezels I've been working on. Like I have a really tiny place and I just jam it all in. And it feels fun to make all this stuff. So that's where it all is made. And there you go. Do you guys have any questions or?
Yeah, we have time for a few questions.
Yeah. Kate?
Can you keep track, or do you just work more spontaneously? I mean, I can imagine like thinking, oh my God, I just saw the perfect bird, where the hell is it?
Oh yeah, that happens to me a lot. But there are things where I've started trying to like throw piles of like the women I want to use, or the birds, or the oceans, or ships, you know, like I have like little piles, but then they get all messed up. But, and sometimes it's like, I can't find it. Yeah. Yeah, that's what it is. Yes?
When I first saw the exhibit, I was wondering what the vintage numbers were, but you said it was a map.
Yeah, they're map pins. So
That just came out of the blue, or what?
again, like I think I was at a flea market and I saw some and I was like, oh my God, I love these. So I like got some and then they incorporated it into my work. Yeah, I fall in love with stuff.
So something falls on the floor, interests you, and you make something out of it?
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes I was just thinking like I cut something away and I'll be like, I like what's left behind. And so I make that into something.
I love the little voyeuristic type of, you know, like you're looking through a little glass, or you're looking, I can see that extending to like other ocular devices or things like that, with all different lenses. But also they lend themselves to film again, I think, you know, I would love to see like a little, like projection, I guess, I don't know, just, they all kind of blend together from your past in a way, you know.
Yeah.
Like I can totally see like a cool little projection about that size on something.
Well, it's funny too, because I did a whole bunch of things once where I put a screen behind and then I would project stuff and then photograph and do things. So it is, yeah, it's a natural progression, but so lots to do.
How do you choose the books you're using?
For which thing?
Any of your projects? I mean, some books, you know, they'll have different texture. Or
Yeah.
Greg had it on.
Yeah, like for folded books, I try to pick a book that is relates to what I'm folding, which can be challenging at times, but that's how it is. You know, for the cut books, it's a matter of like what jumps out at me. And I like taking one book and really cutting the hell out of it. So I have one other book that I've done a whole bunch of things that's not in this, that it's just, I just keep going back and I get multiple copies and I can, you know, cut, like take the same page and cut different things out of the same page. Like it's just, I just get like, it just is happenstance, I guess, but I touch so many books in what I do that I'll just throw a book aside if I fall in love with it. Or I go to book sales all the time and I pick up books that I want to use. So, okay. Oh, one more.
One of the things I love about your work is like photography is you freeze 1 second out of a whole flow.
Yeah.
And a lot of your work feels like just 1 second out of a whole flow. You know, we're getting that one. I guess my question is, how much of the narrative before and after the pieces are in
Oh God, I got such narratives going on in my head. There's a lot of narrative. And then when it's done, I release it. And then I let you guys have your own narrative. I mean, to me, it's like, they're all very personal. They're all self-portraits. There's all stuff going on. But that's just between me and what I'm making. The rest, after I finish it, it's for you to have your own little world go on, you know, go crazy. Yeah. So, okay, thank you guys. Thanks for coming. Thanks.